Okay, there's the recording. Welcome to Coming Out with Cannabis with your host, Christina DiArcangelo Pooler and Wayne Kelly. Today we're talking to Joe Hodas, COO of Gofire Incorporated. But first, CDP!
Good morning, all. It seems like we're doing a lot of these lately. I think this is episode 15 today or 16. We're so happy to have Joe joining us today. And you'll notice that both Wayne and I have one of their lovely t-shirts. It's of great material.
Great. Very nice.
We always like to be able to support, those that come on our show, just as you guys support us in return. And we have this lovely note I keep on my desk over here, and every day I look at it, especially when I get a little frustrated, because as an entrepreneur, you know how that can be, right? So thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today. We're happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, apologize for that. I was just telling Alexa to remind me to wrap it up in 15 minutes. We use that to remind us, Joe, and keep us on track. We also have Bruce over here in the corner who gives me the pointers and tells me to wrap it up when we go overboard. But Joe, we're just going to have you start talking about Gofire. And first, tell us how you got in the industry, and then we really want to hear about Gofire and what you guys have going on.
Sure. Well, thank you again for having me. I appreciate it. And really, my history in terms of getting into the industry began about 5.5 years ago. It actually began in 2009, really, 2010, when I was working as a partner with an ad agency here in Colorado. And a company came to us at that time, which in Colorado it was medical only. And a company by the name of Dixie came to us and wanted some help with some branding and some research. And so I was very interested. I thought, wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. Let's do that. So we did, and that really began to open my eyes to what was going on in terms of medical cannabis, how patients were consuming, why they were consuming, and understanding the real complexities of this industry. So as the march towards full adult use legalization began here in Colorado, I kept in touch with the folks at Dixie, and then in January of 2014, the first week of adult use legalization, I joined Dixie full-time as Chief Marketing Officer. So spent 4 years as the CMO for an edibles company, Dixie. And then from there, I went to a company called General Cannabis, which is a publicly traded holding company and has a couple of other companies underneath that umbrella. And then joined Gofire. In fact, you're catching me on week 1 here at Gofire. But
oh wow,
the good news is the good news is that actually I've been advising Gofire for the last 1.5 years, so I'm very familiar with the team and the product. So
great. Well, I wasn't sure, but if that's your office, you don't have any wall hangings, so that's evidence of an early start here, Jeff.
We're working on that. Yes.
Great.
That's awesome. Well, I have to tell you, I had the privilege of talking to Jeanette and Bethany a couple of weeks ago. And this all came about, and we should actually probably give a shout out to Ron Millard, who was on our Coming Out with Cannabis episode. I can't remember the number, guys, but it was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And he had a Gofire shirt on. And we said, what is Gofire? And he's helping you guys with some marketing. And so then I sent a message, or I think Bruce did, on Instagram to your team. And then that's how this all came about. And so I just love, it's very, how it is. It's word of mouth, and, people know people, they talk to people. And so it was just a fantastic story that you guys had. And then, the fact that you have a device that allows the meter dosing, that's really important to us from a clinical trial standpoint, right? Because we look at compliance, and in this industry specifically, it's a little bit more difficult to ensure compliance with patient medicine because a lot of it's tincture based, or if they're vaping. And for us, it drives me nuts because you have to make sure that they're taking the dosage as it's stipulated in the protocol in order to get the results, from an efficacy and safety standpoint.
100%. And, you've got also then the complexity of the plant composition as well. So if you get a tincture, and that tincture has a different oil than the prior bottle that you had, previously, or even is not mixed well, it's not homogeneous in the actual product, you have challenges there as well.
Right.
So,
Thank
so
God.
that's
And thank God, I have to say, we only work when we do clinical studies. It's with companies that are good manufacturing process certified. So you know how GMP works, right? It has to be the same way every time, day in, day out. If Charlie made it or Susie made it, they better be making it the same way under the GMP certification.
Right. And I think one of to segue right into Gofire, I think one of the real benefits of Gofire is not only the meter dosing, but it's also the smart chip technology on the cartridge for the oil that understands the composition of that oil, so it can actually tell you not only that you're dosing at 2.5 milligrams, but specifically what is within that dose. So that kind of accounts for the variations in oil, because even if you're manufacturing under GMP, you're still dealing with a plant, and until we get to the point where we can extract very specific terpenes and cannabinoids from the plant and isolate those and create customized oils that are the same every time, we're gonna have minor variances as the plants grow and are harvested and then processed.
Nice. Now, Joe, can you just touch base on how it works? I'm really intrigued by the device and the data that it derives from the device and the patient usage. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works? I know you mentioned the chip that's also in the pod, is it?
It's on the cartridge, actually.
Oh, the cartridge, okay.
Into the device, yes.
Nice.
And so the real gist of this is that it's an ecosystem. So you have a hardware device, which is an inhaler. We call it an inhaler. It's not really a vape device because I think vape brings to mind 510 threads, and it's a different kind of a process. Ours is actually more recreational, right? Our inhalation device is actually it's convection vaporization. So that's one major difference in the hardware. Versus most vape products are either a coil or a wick, some type of heating element that heats and reheats the oil, which actually degrades the oil over time, and also is more carcinogenic in the fact that it's burning oil. So one of the advantages, again, is this convection vaporization. But as I mentioned, there's a smart chip on. I'm actually looking around my office to see if I have a sample to show you. But there's a smart chip on the device. This is not, I don't know if you can see this anyway, it's kind of small, but basically it goes onto the cartridge. This is the cartridge that goes into the device, and it reads the lab results that's programmed into that smart chip, so that when you put the device into the cartridge, or the cartridge into the device, and then you have your phone, you've got the app together with that device, it actually picks up via Bluetooth and understands you've just inserted that cartridge, and it can read the information from that cartridge, and then tell you how much you're consuming, what you're consuming, and then you track that over a period of time with the software, so you can understand efficacy. You can also ensure that your regimen is appropriate, and you can share that with your physician as well. So that's kind of one whole piece of it, which is led by the inhalation device. But we also have what are called dose codes, so that you can, whether you're using edible product or tincture, other products on the market that have the Gofire dose code or even a barcode, you can scan that in and upload that product into the software platform as well to be able to track efficacy and product there.
Very nice. Interesting. So the data that's gathered, is it for the patient use only, or are you guys able to use that information as well?
Well, so it's twofold. So of course it is for the patient in terms of understanding, because if you're treating someone over a period of time, you got to go back and look and see, okay, it looks like every Monday when I consume 2.5 milligrams at this temperature, it was the most efficacious application. So I need to focus in on that and fine tune my regimen based on that information. However, there's also a community aspect to this, which is as we gather data points, and random anonymized data, of course, but we can begin to look and see that this combination of cannabinoids and terpenes were most effective for back pain or for fibromyalgia or whatever the particular ailment is. So there's a community aspect to this too that allows the consumer to go in, understand what product might be best for them, kind of give them a head start, and then even it drills all the way down to helping them find that product in a store near them, so they can actually purchase that product.
Very cool. Christina, I think I may have intercepted a question. I mean, it looked like you were ready, and I went right in there with the data question.
Okay.
So I apologize if I missed that. Go ahead.
So one of the things, and guys, the dogs are in the office today. So if you see me putting my arms down, that's what I'm doing. I have two doodles, a pup and who's big, and a mini who's not so mini. So that's what I'm doing when my arm goes down. It's because it keeps them quiet. You know, we have this tool called the Cannabis, which is an artificial intelligence bot. So from a clinical research standpoint, we obviously want to talk to you guys further about utilizing your device to be able to capture the dosing to ensure regularity with the patients per the protocol with respect to the dosing aspect. So the Cannabis has the ability to do a transfer from you to us, to our Cannabis, so that we can see from a safety standpoint and efficacy standpoint, and also from the fact that the patients talk to the Cannabis and answer questions for the clinical trial. So our Cannabis is a good, I think, bookend, so to speak, for this, because we are seeing the data across multitudes of studies, right, when we deploy the Cannabis. Plus, the dispensaries and the medical cannabis physicians and the nonprofits in this space, they are also subscribers. So they have a private, everybody has their own private domain bot for the subscriber. So this will be really cool as we engage further in discussions to see how we can sync the two together.
That sounds very interesting. Yeah, and that's, you know, it's all about understanding the data and being able to find effective solutions for patients. And so it sounds like we're very much in parallel in terms of the purpose of the products. So.
I think so. I think this is why Jeanette and Bethany and I had such a great foundation call a couple of weeks ago, because, you know, we talked about the clinical research aspect of bio, what you guys are doing, and then the Cannabis, you know, which is always you know, it's always a supplemental, very valuable add-on that we're very blessed to have, you know, as a separate tech company.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it'd be a very nice compliment.
And I think the fact that you already understand how technology works and data and how to procure things, it will be so nice. You'll really appreciate it, because sometimes when we talk with people, they don't always understand. They think it's an app. No, it's not an app. It's an actual AI technology. It's a platform. It's not an app. I mean, we use it as an app sometimes for Skype, if you will, because we were smart enough when we start working on this that we identified internationally they don't always have Alexas or Googles, right? These poor patients. So we added the Skype ability to the platform so that they could use it as well.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. It's fun stuff. Yeah. You know, I know we're short on time. Let's continue the conversation. I had Bruce give me the, you know, move forward. You know, but he appreciated the shout out you gave him earlier, Christina. He's got his headphones on.
Oh, good.
So Joe, I mean, please continue. I'm fascinated with the data. You know, my background is all data, Thomson Reuters, submission to the Joint Commission and CMS and all that, you know, crazy nonsense. So I really appreciate, you know, the patient and the performance aspect of the data collection and reporting, you know, okay, what works for this demographic of patient, you know, and the different cannabinoids for those symptoms.
Well, I think why it's really also very important is that we've created a product and a platform. This ecosystem is also really designed for, you know, what I would call the canna curious. So maybe it's somebody that has an interest in cannabis that potentially could benefit whatever their condition is, but they're fearful of it. They don't understand dosing. They don't understand products. This is meant to be a portal, a way for them to begin to research and understand what products might work for them, and then to have the safety and the security of understanding how to dose that product and being able to track it appropriately so that they have greater control on this, so they don't have a bad experience. Because, you know, I think that's why some people, not all people, but some patients in particular are maybe fearful of trying cannabis because they're just unsure about it. And so we act as that safety net through data and through the hardware.
Through
That's
proof.
Fantastic. And you're medically focused, right? So that's the other thing that I think is very, very beneficial, because there's a lot of devices out there that are more the side of the industry, and we always feel like, because we're obviously medically aligned, we always feel that it's important that there is that focus on the medical side in this area, because there's not a lot of people out there like yourselves.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and what you guys are talking about in terms of the clinical research side of things is, I think, a huge area of potential development for us, because
Right.
As you have identified, there's not a lot of tools out there, certainly not for dosing a vaporization platform. So
Exactly.
I think that clinical research could be huge, and what we discover from that could be tremendous for not only the patients, but for the industry as a whole.
Right. That's the thing too. Did you see my eyes start to get wide? I was like, this is like my sweet spot, the research side, because this is what I know. I've been doing it for 21 years, So I love working with people and speaking to people like yourselves who appreciate that and are behind it.
Right.
Well, and I saw, what was interesting is that when I was at Dixie, as a CMO for 4 years, I know we got to wrap up, but it's a recreational product, right? I mean, they're edibles. It's really marketed to the consumer here in Colorado and other legal states. But I would get feedback from patients all the time about how whatever the product was, it really helped with their issues, their ailments. And that was really a light for me. A light went off, and I said, okay, well, clearly, this is far beyond just a recreational product. If we can find ways to bring it to more people that would be willing to try it to help and try and get those benefits from it, I think it's got a tremendous potential that we're not even tapping into yet.
I agree with you. I agree. And I look forward to future discussions, because we've got a lot to talk about.
Right. And that is the truth. Joe, Christine and I have talked about a device similar to this probably for a couple of years. In fact, I think at one point we talked about developing one. And that's what's so beautiful about this kind of thing that we do here, and the partnership and relationship building that can become of it. So it's really great conversation, and I think there might be some things we can do together on the clinical research side of things.
We love that. Love that. Yes.
Fun stuff. But I did get the reminder, Joe. So we're going to try to wrap it up. Do you have anything else you want to share before we have Christina take us out of here?
Just, again, thank you so much for having us. Thank you for the work that you guys do and for being partnership oriented. I think that's critical at this nascent stage of our industry and the growth of this product. And so thank you guys for everything you do.
Great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us with only being in the company on paper for a week.
Get some things on your wall back there.
Yeah, I'll work on that. Yes. I will work on that.
All right, my friend. Have a great day.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.